Only the toughest of the tough survive in the octagon. It's a place where legends are born and losers get left behind in the dirt. To truly make a name for oneself, you have to bear an inhuman level of pressure and punches. But every once in a while, a diamond is born out of the heart of the game. Henry Cejudo thinks he's spotted the next star in the making. But what makes him special? First up, Fight Night Deeds. The UFC promises a good show, always. If you like watching men go ballistic on each other, this is the sport for you. But it's not just the violence that makes us love the game. It's also the unpredictability of the fight. Every underdog has their day, and we love to see them. At UFC Fight Night 216, we witnessed another underdog story, though some argue that it was only the first chapter of a spectacular story. Amir Albazi finished his opponent at the 213 mark in round 3. He was fighting Alessandro Costa and knocked him out so easily that it seemed unreal. He threw a wicked right uppercut at Costa, and it was a done deal for the Brazilian fighter. He threw 2 more punches until the referee stepped in and stopped the bout. Costa lay on the floor, and Albazi claimed his victory. Now, don't take Costa lightly. Although he was a last-minute replacement for Brendan Royval, he's still a formidable fighter. Costa had a 7-fight winning streak before this fight. For Albazi, this was his 4th win and 3rd finish in the UFC. Now that's an A+ report card. With stats like this, no wonder he's gaining notice. And recently, he's caught the eye of some big names. Could this be a turning point in his career? Next up, singing praises. Henry Cejudo is not a small name. He's a mixed martial artist and freestyle wrestler that is celebrated. On top of everything, he's the former Ultimate Fighting Championship Flyweight champion. So when he makes a prediction, you best believe he knows what he's talking about. The Messenger wants everyone to keep an eye out for him. He's been flying under their radar for some time, but he's firmly planted himself as a competition now. In fact, Cejudo thinks that Albazi is going to be a nightmare for anyone in the flyweight category. Considering his most recent fight, Triple C is convinced he's the next champion in the making. He has the grit and the mentality to finish opponents completely. That's the deadly combo in his opinion, but what sets him apart is his technique. He can deliver uppercuts, hooks, and the right hands on people. That's not a small thing to do, especially in the flyweight division. Not only that, he managed to knock most of his opponents out. This suggests that he has the skill and strategy needed to be a champion. He knows exactly when to take risks. Jeez, that's a man we never want to face in the ring, but we bet his fights will be entertaining AF. Coming up, look out for the big man. Henry took to his YouTube channel to let everyone know what he thinks. That's how much Albazi has impressed him. But he took things a step further too. Triple C always goes big. He officially took the opportunity to warn the current flyweight champion. He had coached Davison Figueiredo to the title. Henry obviously felt that he had a personal stake in his success after his win against Brandon Moreno. So he did what any coach would do and called him up. He told Davison to watch out for the new guy. He has the power, wrestling, and defense skills to be a pain to anyone. Albazi is a well-rounded fighter. If Davison isn't careful, he could eventually lose his title. Then, the Messenger even laid out a tentative plan for Albazi to get himself a title fight. According to him, he only has 1 or 2 fights to go to get there. He predicts that he'll fight Mateus Nicolau first. Once he beats him, he'll call Kai Kara France or someone in the top 3 and beat them too. Then, ta-da! He's in the title fight. Simple as that. But the question is this just another case of a fighter talking big, or are there some facts for backing it up? Well, Albazi thinks so. Not to mention, I'm ready. Amir is known as the prince in the MMA circles, and we think that's more than fair at this point. And he thinks so too. After his win on Saturday, he's made it clear that it's only upward from here. Speaking to the the press, he really hammered on the fact that he's not playing around. He's ready for the elite of the flyweight division. He's already submitted 2 black belts, and he's not done yet. His goal was to put on such an amazing fight that everyone knows he means business. He wanted to set himself apart from the others. This fight was his chance to prove that he was ready for the top 5. He's on a mission to put his opponents to sleep. You just keep them coming, and he'll keep knocking them out. His confidence comes from all the adversity he's faced over his life. He was born in Iraq, but had to secretly run to Syria in the middle of the night at just 7 years old. From there, he moved to Sweden at age 8. In a new country, he was out of depth. He lived alone from 15 to 18 in Sweden before moving to London. Here too, he was alone and couldn't speak the language, but he survived. Now he's in Vegas, but he's confident he can survive anything. He thinks that most UFC fighters are too comfortable, but adversity is like second nature to him. He won't stop till he's at the top. Also, love at first sight. MMA isn't just a profession for the Iraqi fighter though. It's his passion. In a way, fighting helped him navigate his tough upbringing. He was literally saved by the punches. When he got to Sweden, he couldn't speak a word of the language. His family was torn, and he'd barely made it out of war-torn Iraq. Settling in was not an easy task. At school, he didn't understand a word the kids said to him. He was the outsider, but he understood that the kids were making fun of him. Because he couldn't hurl abuses right back at them, his fist did the talking. They saved him from a lifetime of bullying, but he still couldn't fit in. He claims that mixed martial arts literally saved his life. He discovered it one day on TV and was mesmerized. This was the way to power. If he couldn't be loved, he'd learn to defend himself at least. Now at 29, he realizes how fateful it was that he stumbled on it at that point. A perfect match. Moving on, how'd he get here? He's been obsessed with professional fighting ever since. He immediately found the nearest MMA trainer and started learning. MMA is a combination of kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, and wrestling, so he had a lot to catch up on. At that time though, MMA was considered too brutal for young people, so his only choice was to learn jiu-jitsu. This style focuses only on ground fighting and submission holds, but it was enough for him. He concentrated all his energy on the sport, saving him from the troubled life many of his peers lived. His neighborhood was notorious for crimes, and it was easy for him to fall into the trap. Were it not for jiu-jitsu, he could have fallen prey to Bredong's life, but his obsession paid off. As a teenager, he had many jiu-jitsu titles. He traveled around Europe for bouts, but he frequently had to lie about his age so they would let him fight. He was hungry for a good battle, and a simple thing like age wasn't going to stand in his way. At 18, he moved to London to study sports science, and then later he moved to Las Vegas, where the UFC is based. He was chasing his dream, and now he's so close to it that he almost tastes it. Just a few pesky opponents stand in his way of becoming the first Arab UFC champion. Next up, he's got a plan. That's a story that deserves a movie, to be honest, but people like Cejudo aren't praising him because he had a difficult childhood. They know a champion when they see one. Sure, the story adds to the overall appeal, and if he won, it would be monumental for the Arab and Muslim fans of the UFC. But it's just his story that's impressive. He has talent and a plan. He's got a 16-1 record in MMA and 4-0 in the UFC now. Clearly, he's doing something right. He has almost 15 years of experience at this point. He has a record of 15 wins too. Most of them come via chokehold. It's his technique that he's perfected to the T. His plan is always simple. He faces his opponent, wears him down throughout a few rounds, and then goes for the kill with the choke. And it almost always works. What can we say? The man knows how to keep it simple but effective. Lastly, feel the pressure. Being the only Arab in the field isn't easy though. He made it here, but he can't help but think of all the other young people who didn't. He says that he feels a lot of responsibility for himself. He represents Iraq and all of the Arab world. He has to make them proud. Albazi also said he plans to return to Iraq and establish an MMA center there. He thinks Iraqis are champions in the heart, so it won't be too difficult for them to catch on. All they need is proper facilities, and he's already put a plan in motion. He met with the head of the Iraqi military to discuss setting up a camp there. His dream is to inspire Iraqi children to dream bigger. He wants to become Khabib Nurmagomedov for his people. It's no surprise then that he remains close to his culture. He enters fights with the Iraqi flag draped on his shoulder and his head held high. He embraces his Arab heritage and Islam. It's his belief in Allah that keeps him calm before a fight. He knows he's not the best fighter, but he certainly is the most stubborn. Now that's a script just waiting to become a movie. We can't wait to see you at the top, Amir. That's it for today's video. Do you think Albazi can become the next flyweight champion? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back soon with another video.
Called before he hit the canvas, and Taporia walks away. Nice show of respect. One more time.